Good evening. I'd like to call the special call meeting of the Davie County Commissioners of June 15th to order. At this time, if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this evening. At this time, I will call on County Manager Ruffin to make a few comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, the agenda for tonight has not been advertised and published according to the statute, and I'm not going to sit here and blame anybody else but myself. I was not aware that the purpose of the meeting needed to be posted on both the door and the bulletin board. We, of course, published it on the website as required, but we did not post it. That is my fault. That's no one else's fault in this room. And I apologize to the board for the inconvenience that it has created. This afternoon, that will mean that the following items can't even be discussed. And that would be the consent agenda. Item 1, resolution in support of a statewide referendum on the governor's proposed bond package. Item 2, resolution authorizing disposition of public property. Item 3, FY 2016 water and sewer rates for Davie County. Budget amendments and transfers. There were 4 contracts, including 3. There were 3 interlocal agreements with the towns of Coolamy, Bermuda Run, and Moxville. And there were 2 equipment deletions required by statute. There was also, under old business, text amendment for composting facilities, and there was a closed session. All of those items this afternoon have been rescheduled for Thursday morning at 9 a.m. in this room, and all of the legal requirements for posting that meeting it's been prepared. It will be posted sometime tonight on the website, on the bulletin board, and on the entrance doors to the building as per North Carolina General Statute. Mr. Commissioner, Commissioners, and Mr. Chairman, that means that the only items that are eligible for discussion tonight and have been so advertised are the 2 public hearings and the adoption of the county budget if the board deems to do that. Public hearing on the 2015-2016 CDBG Community Development Block Grant, Commerce Fellows Grant, Building Community Through Capacity and Knowledge, and then the fiscal year 2015-2016 Davie County budget, after which the board would be entitled, if it deems so appropriate, to adopt the budget ordinance that's included in your agenda packet. And those are the only 2 items. Again, I apologize for the inconvenience, and I accept full responsibility for the error.
Thank you, Mr. Ruffin. I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented by Mr. Ruffin.
Mr. Chairman, before we move forward that, I think it's just in the press of business, but could we have an invocation? Would it be possible to have an invocation?
Sure.
I'll without objection, may I? Lord, thank you for the opportunity to serve the people of Davie County. Thank you for this wonderful county, the great people who live in it, for this state and for this nation. Help us to always keep you in mind with everything we do. We pray for discernment, wisdom, and judgment as we go forward. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Barrett. All right. Motion to adopt the agenda as presented by Mr. Ruffin. Mr. Jones made that motion, I believe. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Barrett. Any further discussion? Not, all in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. All right, thank you. All right, first item under public hearing is the 2015-16 Commerce Fellows Grant public hearing. Ms. West.
Good evening. We were recently informed that there is a Commerce Fellows funding opportunity from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the North Carolina Department of Commerce. This is a CDBG grant, a Community Development Block Grant. This would enable local governments to engage in high-quality professional development and training with a goal towards improving opportunities for low to moderate income families and individuals. We are applying for $25,000 to participate in the UNC Chapel Hill School of Government's training program. This grant would fund tuition and lodging for 8 seats for 5 in-person School of Government courses, as well as 4 online training and webinars. And this training is open not only to county employees, but also elected officials for a couple of the classes, if anyone's interested. And we've also been encouraged by the Department of Commerce to partner with municipalities, and I'm pleased to tell you that we have a letter of intent from the town of Bermuda Run to include them in these training programs. So tonight we need to have a public hearing, the purpose of which is to request public comments and citizen input. We've also put this out on the county's website and on the Davie County Government Facebook page. And after the public hearing concludes, we would request that the board approve the citizen participation plan, and that participation plan is detailed in your agenda packet.
Okay, Mr. Vogel.
Now's the time where the commissioners will open the public hearing to public comments. I would ask that all who wish to comment on the proposed 2015-2016 CDBG Commerce Fellow Grant to come forward, state your name, your full name for the board, and then comment on the proposal, and if you would come forward to the podium. Mr. Chairman, seeing none to comment, I would now turn the public hearing back over to the board for closing the public hearing and any discussion.
From Ms. West, do we have any comments from the board? Questions?
Needs to close.
Yeah. Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing closed and entertain a motion to approve the Commerce Fellows Grant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ferguson, a second by Mr. Poindexter. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Thank you. We move to the county budget ordinance. Ms. West.
Here before you is a reconciliation of the budget changes that we have made from the manager's recommended budget that was presented to you on May 18th. On May 18th, the manager recommended a budget for appropriations and revenues of $56,098,007. You can see for revenues, we are proposing some interlocal changes, as well as some changes in revenues for a caseworker and changing in the fund balance appropriated. We have an increase for public safety for Bermuda Run of $92,000. That's taking the $22,000 to the $115,000 and some change for Bermuda Run, and also taking out the E911 funds from the interlocals from Moxville and Coolamy. And also there is some revenue for reimbursement from the federal and the state government for a caseworker. That's reimbursed at 50%. That's 50% of salaries and benefits at $23,862, and also changing the fund balance appropriated by $86,294 to get new revenues per the ordinance presented in your budget packet of $56,209,897. And then in appropriations, we have added a detective in the sheriff's department. The $65,742 is for salary, benefits, and 1 year's payment of financing a vehicle. And also the food and nutrition caseworker that I referred to on the first page, the salary and benefits of $46,148 to get a total of $56,209,897. And that's the amount of appropriations that's in the budget ordinance that is in your budget packet. For the water and sewer fund,
Can we ask questions about that?
absolutely.
Do you want to let it all go through first?
No, I think it'd be appropriate to ask questions as we go through each fund, so go ahead.
Let me go back. Is that the page you want to look at? One more?
The prior page, please. Okay. So, the interlocal increase for public safety Bermuda
Yes.
Run. Now, as I understand that, that's a proposal to Bermuda Run at this point?
Yes, it is. We have 115,000, I believe it's 791 proposed for the interlocal agreement for Bermuda Run. And that's the amount that we've included in the ordinance, in the additional amount.
Okay.
Yes. So the difference is in the 92,000.
Do we have a response from Bermuda Run as to the acceptability of that proposal?
I have, they are meeting, I think, on June 23rd, I believe is what Lee Rollins told me. I told Lee, pending your action tonight, I would let him know tomorrow what your decision was. And I think he intends to present it to his board on the 23rd. We're, of course, happy to answer any questions that they may have.
Well, I guess my question would be, if for some reason that was not accepted by Bermuda Run, what impact would that have on the budget?
Well, it would have probably greater impact on Bermuda Run in that we would not have an interlocal provide sheriff services to them beyond normal sheriff services. The impact on the budget, I think, will depend on if they take no action. I don't expect that to happen. Hopefully, they'll let us know on the 23rd what their position is, which gives us another week, to see if we can reach any agreement. Right now, it's 115, either 971 or 791 is what the proposed interlocal for sheriff services would be.
So, just hypothetically, if it is acceptable for Bermuda Run, then obviously, if we approve this, it goes through. What adjustment would be made if it's a lesser amount than 92?
That would be up to this board and up to the board at Bermuda Run. I really think the two boards would need to make that decision. I have no idea what the town's response will be.
So right now, this is a proposal.
This is what we're proposing to them, yes, sir.
Okay. And there'd have to be some kind of, if we pass this tonight, there'd have to be some kind of budget ordinance amendment?
Not for us, I think probably for them. I don't know really whether they've adopted their budget or not, but they would certainly have to, this is not something they had in the budget their manager took to them, I know that.
Well, I guess here's my point. I'm not an accountant, but if we're counting on $92,000 in revenues coming in, and those revenues for whatever reason didn't come in, what adjustment would we make on the budget?
Oh, we'd have to, that's $88,000 with a balanced budget that we would have to find in order to keep the budget balanced. I'm sorry, I misunderstood your
I didn't
question.
explain it correctly, sure.
And, we would really have to sit down, the staff would, to determine where we find that money. It also doesn't necessarily mean additional revenue would have to be found. It could be additional expenditures would have to be made, cuts would have to be made to square that up.
And we're having communications and conversations with Bermuda Run to try to work through these issues.
Lee was out of town. I spoke with him actually Thursday and promised to speak with him again tomorrow morning and let him know about, the board's action and go from there.
Any other questions on the general fund?
Okay, for the water and sewer fund, we had on May 18th, $7,213,895. And we have in the ordinance before you tonight that water rates would remain the same as the current fiscal year. So that was a reduction of $184,000. So we reduced the amount in water revenues for $184,000 as well as chemicals to take both revenues and appropriations for the ordinance to $7,029,895. And we updated, on May 18th, we showed you the proposed tax rates. So we had polled the surrounding counties on what their manager proposed tax rate would be, and we have updated the map for you. As you can see, Davie is would be the third highest. This is if the manager's proposed tax rates are approved in all of these counties. But Davie would be the third highest in base. There were several counties who were proposing a tax rate increase. Surrey, Yadkin, and Wilkes were remaining the same as the prior year, but there were increases in all of the other counties. I believe Stokes was increasing 6 cents just for operations. Iredell also had a school bond proposal, so they were increasing theirs 4 cents.
Are you going to speak to the 10.8 cent proposed tax increase further in your presentation?
No, this is all that I had, unless you wanted me to highlight any other things or answer any other questions. I'd be happy to.
I have a question about the Forsyth Clemens tax rate. That would affect part of Bermuda Run, I understand. Is that the case?
Not to my knowledge, all of Bermuda Run should be in Davie.
It's all in Davie, but they were talking about doing an additional tax rate in their fire district.
Of the fire district.
And part of the fire district is in Bermuda Run. Have you had any?
No, I
conversation with them?
have not. I've gone out to the websites to find the tax rate that were being proposed, but I didn't see anything readily available for Forsyth about their fire district tax.
Well, maybe it does not affect us, but the homeowners that live in that section didn't get a notice from them.
Oh, okay.
They were having a pending fire tax increase in Clemens.
And Mr. Chairman, I'll note that in Section 10 of the budget ordinance, it reads, "is hereby levied a tax rate of 72 8/10 cents and a countywide fire tax rate of 4 cents, both per $100 valuation of property, as listed on January 1st, 2015. And as the board knows, that 10.8 cents increase in the general fund tax rate is solely for the payment of debt associated with the issuance of $54.5 million in bonds for the new Davie High School. No increase in fire tax rates is proposed."
So unless anyone had any other questions, that's all that I had.
Thank you, Ms. West. All right. Mr. Vogler.
Now's the time where the commissioners will open the public hearing to any public comments on the proposed budget ordinance for 2015-2016. Anyone who wishes to come forward to comment either for or against the proposed budget ordinance, please come forward, state your name to the board, and then make any comments that you have. Please come forward to the podium. Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, I would turn the public hearing back over to the board for closing of the public hearing and discussions then the board members wish to make among themselves.
Does anyone on the commission have any questions or comments? Comment. I just want to thank the staff for all their work, all their hard work, and I think it's a fair budget, and if there's no other comments, I will entertain.
May I?
Yes.
I wanted to,
Close the public hearing, too.
yeah, I'm sorry. You want to close it?
If no one else has any comments.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just a brief comment before the motion, but as you, I want to thank the staff for the hard work they put in on the budget. There are many good things in this budget, but Mr. Chairman, I believe that the tax rate that we're going to burden the citizens of Davie County with at approximately 11 cents is excessive and extreme. Look at two issues. One is the issue of the premium dollars that we used to help fund the project. That could have dropped the tax burden on the citizens of Davie County back approximately 2 cents. There is new spending in this budget in many directions. I certainly stand behind it. But there is a level of new spending in this budget that I believe we could have found another, just out of new spending, not going into reserves necessarily, another penny or two to relieve the tax burden on the citizens of Davie County. They have, the school is moving forward, and it certainly is the wishes of the people of Davie County. But I think we have to be cognizant of the tax rate. And I know this is an annual issue that we will address again next year. But I really believe we could have probably done better this year in terms of the initial tax burden on the citizens of Davie County. That's my position here in terms of the budget. But I do, Mike, I appreciate all the work you all did. Again, there's a lot of good things in this budget, but I think there's some steps we could have taken to have remedied the tax rate, the sticker shock on the citizens of Davie County initially, and still move forward with the school properly. So I just want to make that comment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Anyone else? Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing closed. Mr. Ruffin.
One change, if I may, gentlemen. Section 11A reads the county manager may authorize transfers within a function up to 15% cumulatively without a report to the board. I ask that you consider an amendment with a report to the board for that. That, Mr. Chairman, that's, I think, balance of the ordinance is fine and certainly appropriate for you to approve if you deem so appropriate.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion to adopt the 2015-2016 budget ordinance with the single addition that item 11A should read. The county manager may authorize transfers up within a function up to 15% cumulatively with a report to the board, changing without to with. Does anyone make that motion?
I'll make the motion. So moved.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand. 4. All opposed? 1. 4 to 1. The motion carries. Okay. Thank everyone for coming out, and at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion? Second. We are adjourned. Thank you.